Greetings! I have just finished these guys the other day, and these are Reaper Bones Ogres. Well, when I say finished, obviously the guy on the end is not. And that's because I couldn't find him. I recently did a counting of all the miniatures I have because I got to the point where I just didn't know. So I went through them all and I found I had about 200. And quite a few of them I didn't know I actually owned. So there was a lot that I was thinking of buying which I'd already got, mostly through the Reaper Bones 3 Kickstarter. So that was good. I learned something. But I couldn't find the guy in the end, so I only painted the other two. But that's okay, I'll do him a slightly different colour, just to be different. Technically they're all from the same clan. I'm going to be using them in the D&D game. So they should all be the same colour, but whatever. It's more fun to mix it up a bit. I don't know if I'll do him green. Quite possibly might do him a bluey skin. Not like really bright blue, not like a storm giant or something, a frost giant kind of thing, but maybe a more bluey tinge rather than a greeny tinge. So these guys turned out sort of green, but there's actually about 4 different colours that went into the skin tone. I kept sort of layering one over the other, and there was greys, there was a bluey grey, and then there was a couple of different greens. One was actually a bright green, which was the end result, and the one before it was more of an olive drab. Now, the layering process, and these weren't done as thickly as some of the other. Now, these are tabletop miniatures and not ones that I was doing for more show quality, but I was thinning them down a little bit more than some of the other tabletop ones. So sort of the colours did sort of intermingle a little bit better than by doing that. So they've ended up in a green, which I like, and it's not like the actual green isn't one of the actual ones used. It is an amalgamation of the colours. So I really like that. I probably should have kept a journal, which isn't a bad thing for any painters out there, especially like newer ones. It's having a journal is a really good idea, because what you can do is when you do something you like, especially when you do something you like, you make note of it, because it's I mean, obviously each and every brush stroke is always going to be individual. But sometimes you come to a particular ending by doing a series of events. And 6 months from now, you might not be able to recollect that same sort of magic. And if you suddenly got another batch of ogres, as an example, and went, that'd be really cool, I'll add to my clan. Yeah, I could do that, but they won't be the same colour, because I won't remember what I did to get to that point. So actually, having a journal where you can make notes, first colour was this, second colour was this. If you thinned it a certain way that was different to how you normally did it, or if you did it a certain way, just make a note. And it's a bit more effort, but it's actually a really good thing to do, because then you can come back, maybe a year from now you go to do something else, and you go, it'd be cool to do orcs in that same colour or something. So it's worth doing. So these are Reaper Bones, and they're actually really good for being Reaper Bones. There's been some that have been coming out. There's some just not have been quite as good as they could have been. And I think that with the Bones line now, that they shouldn't have any of those. I think they've got the process down well enough that each and every one should be getting better and closer to their metal counterparts. And I'm happy with these. These actually have a fair amount of detail. They have a fair amount of character, and there was enough stuff on them to paint. The material took the paint well. I did prime them first. If you look at the site, Bones says you don't need to, but I used Army Painter White. I always find that better than just going straight with the colours. Because the way they sort of want you to do is they want you to use one of the HD lines that they have for the first sort of block colours in. And then after that, once it's dry, you can use thinning and stuff like that. You certainly can, and if you're using their paints, I have done that. But I still find sometimes if you don't thin, the HD line of paints can get a bit sort of tacky after it, and obviously all paint will do that over time, but it can happen reasonably soon. So you're thin for two reasons, really. One is to give sort of some extra life to your paint to slow down that process of it going tacky as it's drying, because the tackiness is it drying, right? And the other reason is the thinner the paint, the sort of smoother it goes on. So it'll flow a little bit better, and the colour will be smoother when it's done. The downside is it's less durable. There's a time factor if you don't thin much, or like, because Reaper says that they're pre-thinned a little, so you can just paint from the bottle. But I just don't like doing that. I don't find you get the same result. And if you look at, I'm certainly not a Gold Demon winner or anything like that, but if you look at any of theirs, you'll find I don't think that any of them have ever painted their stuff straight out of the bottle. They're always thinning. But they're not touching their stuff once it's done. So that's the thing. Even with varnish, over time, if you've done really thin coats, the paint is going to be less durable, and the varnish will wear off eventually if you're touching it enough. But these guys are really good fun, and I think, like, I got them in Bones 3, but I think you can still get them for like $4.50, something like that. They are each, which is, considering their size. I mean, they are 28mm, but they're ogre size 28mm, so that's pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, they're good. I like some of the stuff that I do like about them. The keg that one of them's carrying, they both have clubs, but the clubs are individual. One has like metal spikes sort of stuck in the log. The other one has a great big hump their belts. The fur was nice. The muscle detail was really nice, and I overwashed these. If I'm doing a more show quality piece, I don't wash anywhere near as deep as this. I usually also thin my washes, even though they say you don't need to with them, but I always thin my washes for the same thing. Get it to just go a bit smoother and not be as dark. Because some of these washes, the Vallejo line especially does these really nice washes, but they're almost go on a little bit more like an ink. So it will lower the shade of the paint colour that you've used. So I always thin my washes usually. The only ones I don't always do actually is the Games Workshop. Those are pretty nice as is. Otherwise, yeah, I tend to thin. But because they're going to be a game use piece, they're going to be seen on the table, and the tables are it's either going to be 5x10 or 6x4, depending which table we're on. And that's a fair distance away to be looking at the miniature. So when that's the case, you can get away with them being a bit more sort of heavy on their detail and that, because you're not going to be up close. If you're going to do a shelf quality mini, just one that you really want to do that looks gorgeous and you're going to put on your shelf and not use, I wouldn't wash as heavy. I also probably would have thinned the paint twice as much, and it would have taken 2 to 3 times longer to finish each one. But as I wanted these for the Rise of the Rune Lords, Massacre on Hook Mountain, I think it is, or the Hook Mountain Massacre, something like that it's called. There's ogres in that, so I needed to get them done. So yeah, there's about 4, I think, in that adventure. So I only have the 2, and I've got to finish the other one. So I might try to pick up another one before that happens. But yeah, I mean, for their price, they're great fun. Each one's slightly different. There's not just in the pose, but in their gear. I mean, they all have a form of loincloth. One's leather, one's fur. The last guy, I think, is fur as well. They have a little bit of... is he leather? I think the last guy is fur as well. And they have some metal on them and a lot of skin tone. Actually, they're a really good mini to learn on if you were wanting to learn on something, because they have a mixture. They've got wood, they've got a skin tone, they've got leather, they've got metal. There's a lot of stuff there to practice on. It's really good. Now, another channel has finished these 2 guys. Actually, it's funny, the same 2 guys that I finished, they did. I think they did a little while ago, but it wasn't too far back. But it's channel's called Roll for Initiative. I'll put the link below. If you're into gaming, they're worth having a look at. They do a lot of gaming videos, RPG stuff. So if you're into RPG games, they're worth having a look. They were finished by Dawn's Early Light. I'm sure she's heard that one before. But yeah, they're worth checking out. She did a different shade of ogre than I did, so it's always good to have a look and see what other people have done, because you can get different ideas. And some people might like what I did shade-wise, other people might like what she did shade-wise, but it's all good, right? You get different ideas on what you can do. That's the one thing about fantasy is, even if it says ogres are this colour, it's really up to you, and you can do whatever you like. So yeah, definitely check them out if you're into gaming. And thanks for watching.